Alrighty, welcome. I guess you can call it the first official episode of Bet the Beach Live here on the Bet the Beach YouTube channel. Glad you could join us here tonight for this just historic, just monumentous event here that we're doing tonight. My name is Chris Turk, as you may know if you've been following along. We kind of shifted a little bit. We did some Super Spike the last couple of weeks. And I think I decided that I think a little later in the night, I think was a good move. We were doing 7 Eastern. And I mean, let's face it, a good chunk of the beach volleyball fans here in the United States are West Coast fans. So to do a show that starts for them at 4 p.m. their time probably isn't setting ourselves up for the most success. So I think moving it later, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, I think that was the right move. I'm excited about that one. I also like moving it to Wednesday. So we're going to do Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, every single week here live on the Bet the Beach YouTube channel. And while I'm on that point, I would urge you to like and subscribe. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will get notifications every time we go live. So it'll pop up on your phone. You know it'll hop on. You can hop in the chat with me, talk to me. Ask me some questions, tell me what's going on in your day. We can go back and forth. So if you hop on the chat live, you can do that. So subscribe, like, it helps me out, and I would really appreciate it. And you can follow us on all the platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Bet the Beach. So go ahead and look us up there. And, of course, the blog, I mentioned it the last couple weeks on Super Spike. The blog is betthebeach.com/blog. And I get new episodes or new blogs coming out every Tuesday. This past Tuesday, we did a little Guadalajara preview, which we'll do here in a few moments. We looked back at the NORCECA Playoff number 2 from this past Friday, which we're going to do here first tonight, as you can see up here on my left, and a couple other news and notes from the volleyball community. The biggest one for me this past week was our new logo, and you can see it up to my right, up to my left. Big things happening here at Bet the Beach. The logo that I've been working with since last January when we went live on Instagram for the first time was a colored pencil sketch. I still have it downstairs. I took that, I digitized it, I cleaned it up a little bit, and that's been our logo ever since. And I've been meaning to improve that, clean that up, digitize it, make it a little sharper so that I can start getting some merch out there. This is the old logo here, pretty similar, but it's the colored pencil version. The new logo is going to be a lot sharper, have on hats, have on some shirts. So we will have some Bet the Beach merch coming here on our website relatively soon, I would say. Getting a lot of requests for the Bet the Beach dry fit. This is a sweet shirt, hooded dry fit. Can't beat it. Those beach summer days, trying to stay out of the sun. UPF keeps you protected from the sun, keeps you cool, keeps that sun off you. So we're going to be doing that here too. It's been a busy couple of days in the beach volleyball community, so I would say, let's get to it right away. Starting with the NORCECA Playoff number 2 that took place this past Friday on the sands of Manhattan Beach, California. So what this is this is a playoff qualifier, you could call it, for the NORCECA Continental Championship, which comes up here in May. I think it's May 5th through the 11th. And what that means is if you win this playoff, you are the United States team that gets to go represent their country for the NORCECA Playoff. What is the NORCECA? NORCECA is the North American something. But basically that is our continent's regional volleyball commission, for lack of a better term. We've talked a lot about Olympic qualification, and we'll do a little bit more of that here in a few minutes when we get into the Olympic points race. But to put as simply as I possibly can for you, 24 teams per gender make the Olympics, right? Host country gets 1, you're down to 23. 5 teams are granted, a bid into the Olympics via winning their Continental Cup. So you have North America, you have South America, you have Africa, you have Europe and Asia. And I think Australia goes in there with Asia. So what that means is if you win the NORCECA Continental Championship, you win a berth to the Olympics, that North American berth. And each of the continents have their own version of this that sends a qualifying team. Now, you only get 2 teams per country. You still have the country quota. So for teams like the United States, who have Andy Benish and Miles Partain, already qualification pretty much well in hand at this point. And then right now, and we'll get to this when we look at the Olympic points race in a little bit, right now you have 2 teams that are within the qualification points cutoff for qualifying via points. That's Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner, and that's Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. What does not happen is the winner of this NORCECA being, let's just say, for example, pick a U.S. men's team that's, way down, not involved in the conversation. Let's just say Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb, who aren't really playing internationally right now. They don't have the points. They could not go into this qualifier, qualify, go to NORCECA, win the NORCECA, and get themselves into the Olympics because the United States is already going to have 2 teams that qualify via points. Same thing could be said for like a federation like Brazil on the men's side and the women's side, the United States men's and women's side, Netherlands on the men's side, Switzerland on the women's side. On any federation that's qualifying 2 teams per points, the bid doesn't go to you. So then you look at the NORCECA, what federations are remaining that are going to be competitive and looking to get that berth. Cuba, a team that I've been really, really, really high on the last couple of weeks, 2 straight silvers in challenge events, super fun to watch. You go to my Instagram, I got a reel of just an awesome Cuban jump set, late third set against, I think that was George and Andre in the challenge event about a week and a half ago. So Cuba's a team that's going to compete for that NORCECA berth. Canada's Sam Schachter and Dan Deering, another team that's going to compete for that berth. A couple good Mexican teams are in the mix. I think there's there's a good team from Puerto Rico, somewhere Dominican Republic, something like that. But it doesn't mean Olympic qualification for the United States. However, what it does mean is it means Olympic qualification points. That NORCECA tournament, the Continental Championship, from what I have learned via Sandcast, the great podcast that I shout out all the time, is your qualification points in the NORCECA are roughly equivalent to that of a challenge level event. So whoever gets this bid, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute here, whoever got the bid to go to the Continental Championship is going to have the opportunity that other teams from their federation are not, to play in a event that gives you challenge level points that doesn't have challenge level competition, because you're only going to be going up against, Cuba, Sam Schachter and Dan Deering from Canada, Mexico. You're not going up against the Brazilian Federation and the Netherlands and Germany and all the other federations. I'm talking specifically on the men's side right now. So what happens is this past from the sands of Manhattan Beach, California, we have our 8-team playoff for the United States bid to the NORCECA Continental Championship. Brunner and Crabb are your 1 seed. Budinger and Evans are your 2 seed. Crabb and Sander are your 3 seed. Bourne and Schock are your 4 seed. All chalk through that first round exactly as you'd expect it. And then Trevor and Theo beat Triborn and Came Schock in straight sets there, which was 21-13, 21-17. That was a tough loss for Tri and Came. They really needed that one. And then 3 sets for Taylor Crabb, Taylor Sander, Chase Budinger, Miles Evans, 21-18, 16-21, and 15-12. So Budinger and Evans advanced to the finals to take on Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb. What happens? It goes 3 sets, and we get to have an exciting final minute or final point of that, and I'll bring that to you courtesy of timkim.vb on Instagram, and then repost it here on the USA V Beach Instagram page.
Yes!
just a very fired up there, Miles Evans and Chase Budinger. I think you saw the Chase Budinger block hit the net and then kind of trickle. Trevor and Theo thought the ball landed out. It dropped just barely in, and Miles Evans and Chase Budinger win that third set, and they get the United States bid to the NORCECA Continental Championship. A very, very important bid for them as they get to really add to those points that they have been earning, and have an opportunity to do so in an event that Trevor and Theo, don't get to. So there's the picture from post-match. Chase Budinger, Miles Evans, very pumped up. And now, as it stands, they are just percentage points behind Theo and Trevor Crabb. And both of those teams going to be in action here in the Guadalajara Challenge event coming up here, starting tomorrow. So, Guadalajara, let's take a look at, who's going to be playing. I wrote about this in the blog this week. So you have the United States teams that you'd expect in it, and then you have a bunch of other teams that were able to kind of get bumped up. A bunch of teams were in this and then dropped out of it. So you have a lot of United States second and third tier teams making this tournament that typically you wouldn't get to see qualifying for or making the qualifiers for a challenge level event. But again, I talked about it on the blog earlier this week. Just want to make sure I get the right teams for you. Kyle Friend, Tim Brewster are in the qualifiers in Guadalajara here, starting tomorrow. Hagen Smith, Logan Weber, Evan Corey, and Robert Harrison, and Ben Vaught and Kevin Coyle, all on the men's side from the U.S. Federation, having an opportunity to get some international experience at the second highest level, and get some entry points built up for post-Olympics when the Beach Pro Tour events are a little thinner. They can hop in there, make some money, get their entry points up, and start looking ahead towards 2025. But really, for a young team like that, it's about experience and making the money. And post-Olympics, you have a lot of the bigger teams that do go to the Olympics not traveling to these Beach Pro Tour events. So it's really the opportunity for the young teams, the up-and-coming teams, the teams that are looking for both experience and money, like I said, to make it. On the women's side from the U.S. Federation in Guadalajara, we got Kim Hildreth and Tegan Van Gunst, Haley Harward playing with Kylie DeBerg, Kennedy Coakley playing with Brooke Sweat, Savvy Simo playing with Abby Van Winkle, and Katie Lindstrom playing with Samantha Parrish. So it's a really good opportunity to see some of the United States young up-and-coming talent on the second highest international stage. As far as the main event goes in Guadalajara, posted on Instagram yesterday and up on the blog yesterday as well, men's and women's odds to win in the Beach Pro Tour Challenge event, Guadalajara, Mexico, April 11th through the 14th. Right now, I have Evandro and Arthur from the Brazilian Federation as my highest men's odds to win at 4-1. Some people are going to look at that and say, I think probably you could make a case for George and Andre of Brazil, who have the higher Olympic points right now, to be ahead of them in the rankings as far as odds to win. And I think Alex Rangieri and Adrian Carambula, who we haven't seen yet in 2025 on the international stage, 2024, sorry, I'm here ahead of myself, probably the higher ranked team internationally than Evandro and Arthur. Now I'll say this. Evandro and Arthur got a gold in one of the two Brazilian challenges over the course of the last month in Brazil. George and Andre got the other gold. So both teams have a gold for Brazil. I got 4-1 for Evandro Arthur. I got 5-1 for Alex Rangieri and Adrian Carambula, Mr. Skyball. And George and Andre from Brazil. Those are your top three teams, men's odds to win on the men's side. I also have Miles Evans and Chase Budinger coming off that big win over Trevor and Theo at higher odds than Trevor and Theo. Trevor and Theo have the better Olympic points right now, but I think Chase Budinger and Miles Evans are playing better volleyball at the moment. They just beat Trevor and Theo, and I think they're a team that's really on the way up. Miles Evans is playing with a confidence that we haven't seen out of him yet. That Chase Budinger no-look, like cross-court, is just filthy. They're optioning at a very high rate right now, siding out really well, and they're a team I really do think is going to make the push here, and I think is going to overtake Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner and grab that second Olympic men's spot. And that'll be a real heartbreaker for Trevor Crabb because he was in a similar position in the last Olympic quad, and right down to the very last event, him and Triborn were right in that race for that second spot, and Jake Gibb and Taylor Crabb stole it from them at the last minute. So if Trevor Crabb is on the outside looking in 2 quads in a row, it would be a heartbreaking moment for him. And for sure, Theo Brunner's probably last run at an Olympics. Continuing down the list, Netherlands, Van de Velde and Emmers, good team, playing good volleyball. Rossi and Lupo, haven't seen them for a while. I was surprised to see them in a challenge event, honestly. They are Italy's 3rd team right now, so they're on the outs looking in, but they have the abilities here still to overtake Alex Rangieri and Adrian Carambula. So it's an important match for them. The aforementioned Cuban team, I think they're dangerous right now, and I'm going to keep my eye on them. I'm very excited to watch them play some more beach volleyball coming up this weekend. And then working my way down the list, it's a bunch of other teams that you'd expect to be in there. I do have Tryon Came at plus 2,500 odds to win the whole thing here. And the thing I'll say about Tryon Came, and you hear me talk about them a lot because I do love both those guys, especially Triborn. The story, I don't know if I've told it yet here, but we went to the AVP Chicago, my first Chicago AVP this past Labor Day, and we're sitting there, got the Bet to Beat shirts on, we're sitting in the beer tent, and got about 20 Kona Big Waves sitting on the table, and Tryon Came lost, and they wandered into the beer tent and hung out with us for a little bit, and just cool guy. So nice guy. I'll always root for him. Love him on Sandcast. I got him at 25-1 odds. And honestly, coming out of the qualifiers, it's be a very, 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 very long shot to win the whole thing, which is why the odds are as long as they are. But it's kind of a must-win for them at this point. They need to podium pretty much in every event the rest of the way. They are still in the qualifiers for the Elite 16 coming up here in Tepic. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, I believe. So they are still in the qualifiers for an Elite 16 at the moment. They will not be moving forward if they don't podium here. So it's pretty much the end of the road. I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now for Tryon Came, but this is one where they have to podium. They have to podium in a big way. On the women's side, Sarah Pavin and Molly McBain, currently the last ones in for Olympic points right now. Huge for them. They are being trailed in the Canadian Federation by Heather Bansley and Sophie Bukovic, who are well beyond them in points, but I think have only 8 finishes to Pav and Molly's 12+. So where Sophie and Heather are going to make up big round every event, and they are in the qualifiers here in Guadalajara starting tomorrow, Pav and Molly are going to make little dribs and drabs as they start dropping out bad finishes and replacing them with good finishes. They take your top 12 for Olympic rankings. So it's an important match for Sarah and Molly McBain. We've seen Sarah, pick up her game, when it counts. I don't expect anything less. I think they're probably your best odds to win at plus 600. I do have the odds a little lower there at 6-1 because I think there's a lot of teams that really can compete here. Brunner and Herberli from Switzerland, they need it. That Swiss race for those 2 spots, I think only like 40 points separates the first from the third Swiss Federation team on the women's side. So an important match for them. And I've had them a little higher rated since last year because I saw them play. I forget where it was, but I loved the volleyball they played. And then they had kind of an underwhelming 2024, or 2023, I should say. So I'm ready for them to make that next step. I think they will, but we'll see. Finland's playing really well right now. Austria's on the come up for sure. Agatha and Rebecca are always going to be in the conversation when they're in a tournament. No question there. Working your way down, the 2 other Swiss teams, sisters, then Heather Bansley and Sophie Bukovic, the aforementioned. Working your way down. I got a couple USA teams at plus 2,400 and plus 2,800. Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg and Savicimo and Abby Van Winkle for the USA. Some long odds there. So challenge event qualifiers start tomorrow, and then main draw pool play will start on Friday. You will have main draw finishing up Saturday and into probably Saturday morning. You'll get, I think they do round of 18, round of 16, and then quarters, and then you'll get semis and finals on Sunday. Masters Sunday. We'll talk about that in a few minutes here. But coming up this Sunday, an important challenge event finals on the Beach Pro Tour. We've talked a lot about Olympic points, so I won't beat that to death here. But I do want to show you kind of where we're at the moment. So on the men's side, what I did was I took the Olympic rankings. This is courtesy of FIVB.com. And if you're a fan that follows this, or you check in for the Olympics and you go to that website, it is helpful, but they do muddy the waters a little bit. So what I've done here is I've highlighted and I've drawn for you a cutoff right now. As we said, 24 teams make it per gender. The host country gets one automatic bid. On the French side, you're going to have one French team potentially qualify via points, so they may get two teams. On the men's side, there will be no French team qualifying via points, so the French team is going to get that 24th spot. The 23rd through the 18th spot go through those aforementioned Continental Cup champions, and then the 17th or 18th spot, I should say, goes to the winner of the Beach World Champs from last season. That on this image here on the left side of your screen is for the men's Andre Pruzik and David Schweiner from the Czech Republic. So that's their highlighted in blue. They are in no matter what happens. They would qualify via points anyway, so it's not really terribly significant. But that is the reason why they're highlighted in blue, because that gives you 17 other teams highlighted in yellow that, as of today, would qualify for the Olympics. Red shaded teams on this list are teams that are not qualifying via country quota. So, for example, the 12th spot there, Chase Budinger and Miles Evans, as we've talked about, they're currently not in because they're just trailing Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner. Pedro and Guto from Brazil, they don't have a chance at this point. Evandro and Arthur and George Nandri are going to get the two bids for Brazil. The next Brazilian team, Renato and Vitor Felipe, same thing. And you got three teams from the Netherlands fighting for two spots. Bormans and de Groot, though, I guess similarly to what I would predict with Chase and Miles, I do expect them to leapfrog the team that's ahead of them in Immers and Van de Velde. Only 8 results to Immers and Van de Velde's 13. So where in the next 4 tournaments, Bormans and de Groot are going to be replacing are going to be only adding numbers to their points total. All Immers and Van de Velde can do is drop out bad finishes and replace them with better finishes. So the trajectory of how those points goes up, you have 2 different linear paths there, and the opportunity for Bormans and de Groot is great to surpass them, as they sit only about 300 points behind their fellow countrymen. That puts Chile's Grimault and Grimault right on the line of cutoff right now. Seidel and Prestels from Austria are now the first team out, I guess you would say, on the bubble, if you're going to do a March Madness style look at it, and apt right now because that tournament just finished up a couple days ago, which we'll talk a little bit here at the end of the show. And Triborn and Cam Shock, 2 spots out of qualifying for points, but they're 2 teams out at the moment in the federation for the men's. On the women's side, this one gets a little more interesting because, as I said, Placette and Richard are the French women's team that are officially qualifying via points. So the other French team, there will be one more French team that's going to qualify and get that, country bid, automatic bid for hosting the Olympics. Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang, as you see there, highlighted in blue, they won the Beach World Championships last summer, so they get the automatic bid. And then you go to the teams in red. Again, Brazil, 2 teams qualifying there. Actually, technically 3 teams for the Brazilian Federation that are qualifying via points and will not make the Olympics because of that country quota. So for all the things we say about the U.S. Federation in women, where they have the one team in Betsy Flint and Julia Scholes that would qualify and will not be participating in the Olympics this year, Brazil's got 5 teams qualifying via points. As I said, Sarah Pavin and Molly McBain right now on the cutoff line, just south of the cutoff line. First out is Liliana and Paula from Spain, the team from Thailand. And then we talked a little bit about the Klingers, the Klinger sisters from Austria, playing the challenge event in Guadalajara coming up here in a couple of days. They have an opportunity here to just bump just up into that above that red cutoff line. Pavin and McBain, Ittlinger and Borger from Germany, Finland, all those teams they're looking up at, they can move right up into those spots there with a couple of good finishes here. So this goes to show you the importance of each and every one of these tournaments coming up here over the course of the next few weeks. And with that, I think let's take a look at the schedule, because we have, at this point now, we sit here mid-April. The Olympic qualification cycle ends June 10th. So we have all of May, 10 days in June. So we're down to about 8 weeks left in the Olympic qualification cycle. This weekend, as we said, a challenge event in Guadalajara, Mexico. The following weekend, an Elite 16 in Tepic, Mexico. By the way, just a very, very deep-looking qualification list for that Elite 16. On the men's side, Amon and Helvig, Peruzic Schweiner, Bormans and Negrut, Partain and Benish. Going to be their first appearance of the 2024 season after an extended offseason. Excited to see them. Erez and Wickler, Nikolai and Codafava from Italy. Just all the teams. All the teams you expect to see. Sharif and Ahmed, Trevor and Theo. Trevor and Theo just barely making the main draw there in Tepic. That's a huge, huge advantage for them. So in this race where Chase and Miles are playing better, everything's going good, Trevor and Theo get to start in the main draw. Chase and Miles are, where are they? They're number 5 seed in the qualifier. So that's a couple extra games they have to play, an entire extra day of volleyball that they have to play in order to make it to the main draw and then to get to the exact same level that Trevor and Theo are going to start at. So big advantage for Trevor and Theo there. They put themselves in that position with some good play at the end of the 2023 season. So just an absolutely loaded Elite 16 coming up here in Tepic. On the women's side, and Patricia and Duda, Hughes and Chang, close enough, Barbara and Carol, Mel and Brandy. It's every team that you'd expect to see on the women's side, with the exception of Maria Fay and Clancy from Australia. I think they had an injury. They signed up for the last Elite 16 in Doha and then bagged out at the last minute, I think. I don't know if it was an injury or what's going on there. I don't know if they're trying to get right. But they are not currently on the entry list, so they will not be playing in Tepic, Mexico here next week. And really on the men's and women's side, besides Anders Mole and Christian Sorum, they're the only major team that you would expect to be in Elite 16 that aren't there. And that's other news that I probably should have talked about before at this moment. Anders Mole fractured a bone in his foot about a week and a half ago. Huge news on the men's Olympic scene. Got surgery the next day. Immediately went back to Norway to begin working on a plan to try to get it rehabbed in time for the Paris Olympics, July 27th through August 10th. So that gives him 3 months to rehab a fractured foot. And if they cannot go, it'd be really, really disappointing to see. The Volley Vikings have been the best team in the world now, going on 6-7 years. It would definitely leave the door open if they couldn't for the Swedes to step in and kind of take that mantle as best team in the world on the men's side. But I'm really hoping that Anders Mole and Christian Sorum can get back, can be healthy, and can really give us that the Norway-Sweden matchup that I think we're all expecting to see probably in that gold medal match coming up here the last couple days of the Olympics, August 8th, 9th, and 10th in Paris. But as we look at the schedule, as I said, we got that Elite 16 in Tepic. Then we have a challenge event the following weekend in Xiamen, China. Another Elite 16 the week after in Natal, Brazil. And then we have AVP Huntington Beach, the first Heritage Series match of the season. After that, Elite 16 in Espinho, a challenge event in Starja Blanki, Poland, and the last and final Beach Pro Tour event of the Olympic qualification cycle for 2024 is the Elite 16 in Ostrava in the Czech Republic. And I bet you a lot of these races, on the men's side, the U.S. Federation, on the women's side, the Switzerland Federation, on the men's side, the Netherlands Federation. I think a lot of those races are going to come down to that moment. And then, of course, for those teams that are just looking to get in, there's a lot of teams right now that could move up, move down. We're looking at that bubble. We're keeping an eye on that bubble for another 8 weeks here as we look towards the Paris Olympics starting in July 27th. Well, I mentioned AVP Huntington Beach, and I think it's time we take a look. The entry lists are out for AVP Huntington, and absolutely loaded they are. On the women's side, Kelly and Sarah are your 1 seeds. Taryn and Kristen, TKN, are your 2 seeds. Brandy and Mel, your 3 seeds. Julia and Betsy Flint are your 4 seeds. And it's good to see Julia Scholes and Betsy Flint getting back out on the sand. I know Julia has had, I think, a couple of knee surgeries, maybe at least 1 knee surgery, and took a little time off at the beginning of the year to get right. You know, they're not don't have really much of a chance in that Olympic qualification at this point with TKN and Kelly locking it up as early as they did. So it'd be really nice to see Julia and Betsy back on the sand. It's their first domestic event since Manhattan Beach champions about 3, 4, 5, more than that, 6, 7, 8 months ago. Big time Manhattan Beach championship. Betsy's first. Sarah Sponsel made the move to indoor, and she's back on the sand playing with her old partner, Therese Cannon. They're a team that can do damage and win just about any tournament, but Sarah hasn't played on the beach here in a little while, so that'll be interesting to see. Pavs playing with Kelly Reeves, Crafton Sockman, Quiggle Schermerhorn. Zana's playing with Deanna Kraft. Kylie Scott's playing with Gina Rango. Sav's playing with Tony. The Masterinis are in there, as they always are. So an excellent list there on the women's side coming up here, AVP Huntington Beach. Now, the deal with the AVPs this year, I talked about it a little bit last week, is as follows. The AVP League's coming up following the conclusion of the Olympics and following AVP Chicago Labor Day, so I think it starts sometime around mid-September. 8 men's teams, 8 women's teams make the league. In order to make the league, you have to you can qualify 1 or 2 different ways. You can win one of the 3 Heritage Series tournaments, one of those being Huntington Beach, Manhattan Beach, and AVP Chicago. Those are your 3 Heritage Series events. If you win one of those, you are automatically in. Other than that, you qualify via points. They take 2 of your best 3 results from those 3 Heritage Series events, and if you are in the top, depends on how many make it. So you got 8 teams. If you get 3 different teams win the Heritage Series events, now you have 5 teams remaining. Get rid of those in points, whoever's left. The other thing I'll say here, too, is that the AVP is retaining up to 2 wild cards, and that's, if April and Alex want to play, they're going to get a wild card. AVP doesn't always use their wild cards. In fact, they use them very sparingly, but if you have an opportunity to get some legends into your AVP league and they want to play, you're definitely going to have them play. So it's up to, 8 teams qualifying. Maybe if you have 2 wild cards, 6 teams. So then if you have 3 different teams that win tournaments, now you only got 3 spots left. So the points are huge. So these teams are going to be showing up and showing out in each of these AVP tournaments. Such a deep list on both the men's and the women's side. On the men's side, for AVP Huntington, you got Cayman Tri, top of the list in as far as entry points. They're your 1 seed. Trevor and Theo, Taylor and Taylor, Miles and Chase, Andy and Miles. Just an absolutely loaded top 5 there. I think if you're, or if and when I should say, Bet the Beach puts together its odds to win AVP Huntington, I think you go through those first top 5, and then your odds drop drastically after that. I mean, you're probably looking at like plus 800, for those top 5, and then you're dropping down to like plus 16, plus 1800, and that's not taking anything away from, Phil Dahlhauser and Avery Drost, Troy and Billy Allen, Kyle Friend and Timmy Brewster, Evan Corey, Logan Weber. You got a bunch of great teams there, but those top 5 teams are loaded, really. So I think you have a big drop off on the men's side after those top 5. All those teams looking to qualify for the league right away, get it out of the question, no more questions. And I think nobody's more excited for domestic beach volleyball than Taylor Crabb. And I know that him and Taylor Sander have been out there training the last few weeks, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them put on an excellent performance because they are surrounded by teams that are looking at something else. At that time, when we get to AVP Huntington Beach here in, 4 or 5 weeks, Trevor and Theo are still locked in on just a tooth and nail Olympic qualification push against Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. Try and Kame, are they still going to be in it? If they're still in it, they're more focused on that. Miles and Andy Benish are much more focused on getting good results in Elite 16s and being ready for July than they are in AVP Huntington Beach. So Taylor and Crabb and Taylor Sander might be near the top of your list for odds, just given the situation that's going to be happening at the time of AVP Huntington Beach. So it should be a really interesting tournament. We'll talk a lot more about it over the coming couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to AVP Huntington Beach. Take a quick sip of my Busch Light. Now, we started on the sand. We're going to move to the mic. This is the part of the show where I'm going to bring up some stuff that's some good stuff that I'd like to see coming from the content world of volleyball. I feel that as a broadcaster myself and as somebody who's trying to make the beach volleyball content game work, not only do I owe it to my brethren that are putting out good content, but I like to focus and show and see what the other, good shows out there are doing. And there's nobody that does it better than my guys, Travis Merwitter and Tri Bourne on Sandcast. They had Mel and Brandon on the show this week, and that came out today, which is Wednesday. They had a couple of reels popping off, just giving you a little preview of what you can see if you go to the Sandcast podcast on YouTube or Spotify and just take a quick listen.
For me, I think this is like what is worth playing for is to really put yourself out there and try something new and see how you respond to those moments, good, bad, ugly, whatever the case is. So like the results and stuff become a little less distracting when you're just so fascinated with like, I feel so uncomfortable. Like, how am I going to react in this situation? Like, this is going to be crazy. Like, we don't have a lot of opportunities in our day-to-day life to really test ourselves. And beyond sport, I don't know when that's going to show up, and hopefully I'll find it. But this is what we have right now. So I want to like soak up every moment of it. For me.
So that should be a good one. Go check that out on YouTube. Go check that out on Spotify or any of your podcast platforms. Mel and Brandy on the Sandcast podcast this week with Travis Merwitter and Tri Bourne. Always good stuff from those guys and always great stuff from Mel and Brandy. Another show that I think is doing some really interesting stuff right now is a new show. The characters Troy Field, Taylor Crabb, the Bug, and Sean Rosenthal, the legend. The show is called The Right Side. They stream on Twitch. They stream on YouTube. I'm not sure if they're doing live stuff yet, but they're doing a lot of watch-alongs and, watching old videos, watching Karch's old matches, live filming practice, and Rosie's commenting on them. And to have 2 generations or 2.5 generations of volleyball players all in one room talking is really a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed this one on Instagram. This is the story of how Sean Rosenthal and Taylor Crabb first met, and it was the 2013 Manhattan Beach AVP.
Wow. Somebody asked on the chat how we met. And so Phil and I are not, usually not too worried about any qualifiers, coming up for our first round match. We feel like we're kind of going to cruise through this match and, get ready for the second match. But we hear one of them's like the, collegiate player of the year.
Oh, this is funny.
And so, just our assumption for us not knowing the indoor world very well at the time, we were just assuming that Trevor was the player of the year because he's the taller one.
Wow.
Somebody asked on the chat.
So that was the first part of it, and let me get to the second part of that because that's the second part of the
So
story.
we served Taylor every ball for the first set, and he is just going high hands on Phil, like just it was probably high hands in his mind, but it's like high like elbows. I mean, but it's just going right through him every time.
No, I didn't have that shot back then. I was just swinging. Dude, I was like
on fire.
Exactly how any first time qualifier guy who's going up against the number one team in the world is like nothing to lose.
That was me in Orlando, baby.
Next thing you know, all of a sudden it's like 18, 15. These little crabs over here. We're like, what's going on here? You know what? Maybe we should switch to the big guy.
Good stuff there from the right side, as I said, on Twitch and YouTube. Brand new show there. Troy Field, who I love, very entertaining character. The next Casey Patterson domestically in beach volleyball there. And Taylor Crabb, a legend in his own right. And, of course, Sean Rosenthal. Three very talented guys, very entertaining guys with a lot of stories to tell. So keep your eye on the right side, SIIDE. They're on Twitch, and they are on YouTube now. So thanks a bunch to those guys. Everything else in the world of sports, media, content, and everything else. UConn men's basketball, March Madness winning 2 straight. Dan Hurley's boys doing it again. And you see the URI hat on my head. Alumni, go Rams. I had the pleasure of having my men's basketball team be coached by Danny Hurley for a couple of years. He brought URI to the tournament for the first time in my life, 5-6 years ago now, 7-8 years ago. And then the following season brought them to the round of 32, where we lost to Duke, I think, on St. Patrick's Day. But to see my team in the tournament for the only times in my life, Dan Hurley was the guy who brought us there. Dan Hurley then left for greener pastures at UConn, a move for which I was very, very mad at him for a little while, and then ultimately got over it, came to understand. I knew right away that it was the right move for him, obviously. He's a super entertaining coach, just a very passionate guy. He's a blast to watch out in the sidelines there. And he put together and has put together 2 consecutive seasons of probably the most dominant college basketball you're going to see. So if you're a college basketball fan like me, if you're a March Madness fan like me, a big story, UConn winning 2 straight. On the women's side, Caitlin Clark can ball. I mean, if you've been following along, if you've been under a rock, you might not have seen it. But if you're anywhere else in the world, you have. Caitlin Clark from Iowa just lighting the world on fire. In the playoff run, made it through LSU, won the next game against UConn, women's basketball program coached by Gino Uriema, that's just a legend on the women's basketball circuit, and then coming up against just a juggernaut in South Carolina. South Carolina, a team that now has lost 3 games in the last 3 seasons, I think, undefeated season this season. Faced off against Caitlin Clark in Iowa in the finals on Sunday, 3 p.m. And South Carolina taking the victory. Caitlin Clark had an amazing first quarter and then ran out of gas a little bit, asked to do a little too much against too good of a team. But ratings for that women's basketball game, college NCAA championships, highest rated basketball game in either gender in 5 years. That's including the NBA. That's including men's college basketball. That's including NBA finals. That's everything, WNBA. So for a senior at Iowa University to be so dynamic, so prolific, so entertaining, so, just enthralling to watch, to have the entire country paying attention to her and to get the best ratings in the sport in 5 years, definitely a shout-out for Caitlin Clark. Just an amazing performance by her, and it'll be fun to see what she does. She gets drafted into the WNBA and seeing if she can keep up that momentum. And lastly, we are sitting here on the eve of the funnest golf tournament of the season from Augusta, the Masters. Bet the Beach currently has a future on Rory McIlroy. We got a long shot on Tommy Fleetwood. We'll probably pick a couple other top 5 parlays. But if you're just a casual golf fan like me, I watch half of a tournament a year, and that half is probably the Saturday and Sunday from Augusta here in a couple of days. It always coincides with my birthday, which makes it nice too. But to hear Jim Nantz, to hear the sounds from Augusta, very therapeutic. Good thing to take a nap too. Fun thing to gamble on too, and that's what we are here at Bet the Beach. Is we're a gambling show. So Masters Week coming up here in just a couple of days. I think that will do it for us here tonight. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate you. Again, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is at Bet the Beach on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. But the likes and subscribes on our YouTube channel specifically will help us and will get you live notifications every time we go live, which for the immediate future is every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on our YouTube channel. We're going to be streaming live, talking everything from the week before, everything from the week looking ahead, bet slips, recaps of the blogs. For the next 6 weeks, it's an Olympic push, so every week we'll get you an update on the Olympic points and what's coming up and, where everybody's going, who's going up, who's going down, and we're going to be looking ahead towards a very fun summer of beach volleyball internationally on the Olympic stage, and then as we turn our attention eventually to that new AVP League coming up this fall. Again, that'll do it for us, betthebeach.com for the blog, and we will see you again next week. Thanks, guys.